present that communication. She is the coordinator of a health promotion program that is being conducted in New Caledonia. But New Caledonia is very far from here, so she couldn't come, and so I will make the presentation for her. So we have prepared it together, but I will be her voice today. The health promotion program I will present you is conducted by the Health Agency of New Caledonia, and the Health Agency has signed an agreement with the University Clermont-Auvergne, and this explains why Didier and myself and some other people were involved in that project, respectively for the education and from the health perspective. So, what is the context of New Caledonia? So New Caledonia is a French overseas territory that is situated in the South Pacific, nearby New Zealand. And the territory was a French colony. It has now a specific administrative status with a large autonomy, and that could turn one day into independence. So New Caledonia is a very nice place, a touristic area, but the reality behind the postcard is a little bit different. And you can see that social inequalities are very high. New Caledonia is composed by the main island, divided in two regions, the north and the south. So in the south we have the capital Nouméa, and in the south we have all the economic activity and lots of people coming from Europe. And in the north region and in the islands, the small islands around the main island, you have lots of native populations, the Kanak population, as well as people coming from Polynesia. And that explains mainly the inequalities that you can see on that slide, even that the poverty rate varies from 7% in Nouméa to 52% in the islands. So those social inequalities explain the health status of the population. The prevalence of acute infectious diseases is very high. Non-communicable diseases also are very high. And we have conducted an epidemiological survey that showed that the prevalence of oral diseases was also very high for that territory, with, for example, 1 child on 3 needing urgent dental care. And the social gradient of health is also really obvious, and this is particularly obvious when you consider oral diseases in children, because those diseases are really early markers of vulnerability. So you can see that the proportion of children with untreated oral diseases increase depending on the region, and on the contrary, the access to dental care tends to be lower in the north and in the islands, where the needs are very important, as compared to the south. The study has also explored the links between oral diseases and, for example, obesity, and we have seen that 40% of the children were accumulating disadvantages with having untreated oral disease and being obese at the same time. And the study showed that obesity was really a problem for the Polynesian population. So after that initial evaluation, this was a starting point for the development of an oral health promotion program. Hélène Pichot, who was supposed to be here, I don't know if she's listening to the presentation online. She's a dentist, she has a PhD, and she was appointed to manage an oral health promotion program. And since the beginning, the aim was really to favor intersectoriality by making many different organizations work together, the government, the professional organization, the health and the education bodies, the health funds, all of those organizations that have very complicated names to build this oral health promotion program. So the plan was to develop preventive activities within a health promotion approach. Special focus has been put on developing health education and with intersectoral collaboration. There was also an emphasis in selecting really evidence-based preventive interventions. And so the objective is to obtain sustainable changes to improve health outcomes, and the issue of health inequalities is really at the core of the project in view of the situation. So the objective is at least that the program do not increase the existing health inequalities. That's not so easy to do. But there is a big difference between the theory and the practice, and since the beginning we have identified some challenges. The first one relates to the field of oral health itself, because oral health is an unknown field for many people, and it's a field that is often avoided, even if perceived as very important. The second challenge is the political context in New Caledonia, where on one side there are very good opportunities for developing public health interventions, but on the other side the situation is complicated because there are some cultural aspects that have to be managed appropriately, particularly in the relationship between all the communities that live in New Caledonia, European people, Polynesian people, and Kanak people, and some other communities. Then we have the issue of interprofessionality within the health sector. That is, for people from the health sector, maybe the first step before speaking of intersectoriality with the other sectors. And we were also aware that there is an historical focus on secondary prevention for the preventive activities that are conducted in the field of oral health. So the idea of many people is that if you want to solve oral health issues, you need to screen children and send them to the dentist. So all those challenges were very important if we wanted to have some impact on health inequalities. So in order to ensure the integration of oral health activities within a general framework, and in order to really favor interprofessionality and intersectoriality, we have chosen to work using a common risk factor approach. This common risk factor approach proposed to develop health promotion interventions focusing on determinants or risk factors that are common to several diseases, instead of working separately for the prevention of one disease. So the program, now that after having identified the challenges, the program has been implemented progressively since 2014. It's called Mes Dents, Ma Santé, that means My Teeth, My Health. It really is strongly supported by the New Caledonia government, because there is a government in New Caledonia separated from the French government. And the program right now has adequate funding, and it integrates a research component that is very important to ensure a pertinent and ongoing evaluation of the impact of the project. So one key aspect is that the oral health promotion program is integrated within a larger program, that is the Dokamo Plan for Health in New Caledonia. In the Kanak language, Dokamo means to be wealthy, like that. And as an example, the Dokamo Plan integrates many objectives. One of them, for example, is to promote breastfeeding. So there is lots of activities that are conducted within the local communities for that. And this is perfectly connected with the oral health promotion program, because, for example, breastfeeding really is favoring the development of the oral function of the child. So it's really important that both the activities that are connected within the two plans are connected. So concerning interprofessionality within the health sector, I give you the example of some preventive interventions that are organized jointly for promoting health during pregnancy. These activities allowed health professionals to work together, the midwives and the dentists. So they have had the opportunity to share their views that are not always the same, to exchange good practices, and they have built co-interventions with the population. And these interventions are seen as being more pertinent by the public because it helps avoiding having contradictory messages coming from the different health professionals. After interprofessionality, there is also really a process of intersectorality going on, and particularly real synergy between the education and the health actors. And this can be illustrated by the REBI project. This is a participatory and evaluation process that is organized in 3 steps. And I speak under the control of Didier because he's managing that part of the project. The first step was an inventory of the best practices in the field of health education. The second step is the co-building of teaching toolkits. And next year it will be the dissemination and the evaluation of the impact on the teaching practices and on children's health literacy. So REBI is actually being developed in 44 primary schools and with 139 participants that are involved, teachers, stakeholders, lots of different people. And I want to say that I also speak under the control of Stéphane, who is online and who is working on that project. But as mentioned before, the REBI intervention is related to the oral health promotion program with some educational tools that concern oral health and that are relevant for the support of other interventions. So when speaking about school and community participation, the implementation of daily toothbrushing at school is a good example. Several interventions are going into the same direction with concurrent synergies and with the same strategic objective. For example, so the educational tools that are being built within the REBI project, plus the work done by the regional community workers who are using Kanak tales to promote toothbrushing. There are also goodies that are offered by the institutions in partnership with the suppliers. And the health agency is organizing every year and is giving an award for the best videos that showing toothbrushing implementation. And the last step is the creation of a very famous video called Grandma Smiling, known by all the children now in New Caledonia. And if we have some time at the end of the presentation, I will show you that video. So these lead to an important intermediate positive result. That is that now 95% of the schools in the north and in the islands have implemented daily toothbrushing at school. And if you're not aware of dental intervention, I must indicate that daily toothbrushing at school has been shown to be really an effective measure to promote oral health in school children. One important aspect was also in the program to ensure the access to dental care. Usually in oral health promotion program, we don't speak much about accessibility to dental care, but here it was not possible not to take that into account because remember that we have 60% of the children having oral diseases and 30% of them having urgent dental care needs. So a qualitative survey has been conducted with mothers of children with high dental needs, and this survey helps the health agency to identify the barriers to dental care and to try to put in place different solutions that could be implemented to solve that. For example, the absence of emergency services was pointed out by the mothers as being a big issue for them because they had to wait for a long time for having an appointment. And this question of accessibility to dental care is not always integrated, but really in view of the situation in New Caledonia, it was really important to take into account the real needs of the population that are having access to healthcare. So when I presented you briefly the objective of the program, I told you that reducing health inequalities, or at least not increasing them, was at the center of the project. And at this stage, the evaluation of the program is going on, so I don't have final results, but the evaluation of the dental sealant program brings us some interesting information. So what are dental sealants? Dental sealants are composites that are applied on the teeth, pits and fissures to avoid the development of initial carious lesions. And this is a very effective intervention, and it has been shown that it can be effective at school. It's a little bit costly, but it was very well suited for New Caledonia because there was a long history of school silent programs managed by the dental profession. So the idea was to use what had been done before and to try to improve it. So, sorry, I didn't say that. So the program now proposed to all the 6-year-old children to have an application of dental silence, and the parents can choose if they want the student to be applied at school or in the public dental office. So in terms of intersectoriality, the student program is a way really to bring oral health issues inside the school, because we have now 40 dentists and almost all the primary schools that are involved in that intervention annually. The participation rate of the children is pretty high, and 30% of the families have chosen that the student can to be applied in schools. And the silent program has been evaluated by following the children during 1 year after silent application. We found that the retention rate of the silent was about 80%. That is not very good if you conduct a clinical survey, but that is very good if you consider the situation in New Caledonia. And we also found that the caries incidence was related still to the region of origin of the children, but also to the retention rate. And a multi-dimensional mediation analysis revealed that the retention rate that measures the quality of the intervention was a major factor, particularly in the islands. So it means that putting in place really high-quality interventions is really a key issue if we want to succeed in avoiding increasing health inequalities. So having a quality intervention in the places where the needs are very high is really absolutely needed, because if not, there is an increase in health inequalities. So this was a really quick overview of that program that gives us an insight of what could be intersectoriality locally and very practically in the field. So the program is being conducted since 5 years. The evaluation is not finished. There is a second epidemiological survey that is going on right now, so we'll have soon more information. But we have already identified what works and what doesn't work. So what is good is that the population really has very high acceptability for the program. And this can be explained by the fact that a tooth is involved in the Kanak legend about the origin of New Caledonia. So there is a connection between the program and the history and the legend of New Caledonia. Another positive aspect is the fact that the project is conducted jointly with a research team. And what doesn't work, the cultural adaptation of the different activities that are being conducted is not so easy. And sometimes it's pretty much a top-down process instead of being a bottom-up one. And another problem is that it's still disease-focused, but in view of the epidemiological situation, it's a little bit difficult to avoid that. And what are the threats? The political situation in New Caledonia, with maybe some challenges for the resources that are put in that program in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in the next years. But there are good opportunities. For example, the fact that New Caledonia has integrated the WHO South Pacific Group, and this will bring some more opportunities for developing public health intervention. So thank you for your attention. It was just an example that could illustrate the way we can work together, health agency, universities, people from the field of education, people from the field of health, around common issues that is promoting oral health for school children.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. It's a very impressive work. We have 3 questions from online people. What are the obstacles and the lever for such a successful intersectoral work? Second question, is it easy to talk with the education sector? And third question, how do you take into account the cultural differences?
So there's many questions. There are many obstacles. And Hélène, who is in charge of coordinating everything, is facing lots of issues. Every day it's kind of fight to ensure the continuity of the process, to have people working together. But the positive aspect is that really there is a very strong political support from the New Caledonian government, who is really aware of the situation and who really supporting the activities and that are being developed. And the population also is really supporting the process. For example, if you go to a very small school in a small village, everybody knows Hélène Pichot, everybody knows the song, and so it's there is a positive dynamic, but for sure there are big problems, and the major problem is how to ensure the sustainability of the activities. And I can say that at start, I think that everything began because there was one man leading the health agency who was, I would say, who had a vision. And with that vision, he has understood since the beginning that he had to put everybody work together. And the second thing he had understood that he needed some the support from the academics and with the research. And for me, this is the point of start of the success story. And now, people, I don't know for the future if we can continue the success like that. I answered. And the last question was about the cultural adaptations. Maybe Didier, you can say a word about that, because within the RIBI project, it's really a permanent will to adapt all the educational support to the culture of the people locally. So I don't know if you have noticed, but the drawing, everything is culturally adapted to the New Caledonia situation. You want to say something else?
Yes, something.
Well, this is something very basic what I'm going to do about that question of inequalities. You know, in that kind of very, very small archipelago in the Pacific, you have about 15 different communities and very, very different. So you cannot imagine creating any resource in a tool without the people. So instead of spending 2 months to create a tool, it takes 2 years, because it works only if you do it with the people from all the communities, and some of them, you know, on a very small island in the middle of the Pacific. This is very special. But if you don't take time and money to make it with the people, the chance you have to reach the most vulnerable kids is close to zero. So yes, it works if it's made with the people.
One more.
One last question. Please.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Infana from INSERM in Paris. I had one question regarding your intervention. I was thinking whether you integrated a question about how did the people integrate the importance of oral health for themselves, so in terms of health literacy regarding oral health. So did you integrate this in your program, and do you have any data on how the people see what is the importance of oral health for themselves?
I shortened a little the presentation because I wanted to fix the 20 minutes objective. But within the qualitative surveys that have been conducted with the mothers, the first question was about the way they perceive the importance of oral health, what was oral health for them. And it was the first step before asking them how they access dental care and what are the barriers. So this is part of an answer to your question. And for the evaluation of the RIBI project, one part of the evaluation concerned health literacy and the way the toolkit is going to change the level of health literacy in schools. And maybe for the children, but also for the professional practices of the people who are using the toolkits.
Thank you. Thank you, Stéphanie.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to, it's Paula Marcelo from EADPH. Just a quick comment is that it was nice to see this example being implemented, and the evidence of blushing in schools has been evaluated in other countries and clearly shows there has been a dramatic improvement in oral health and cost saving even within a 5-year period. So this can really work, and it's really addressing the inequalities in a simple manner once you've overcome all the barriers. So well done.
Thank you very much.